Hello everybody, and welcome back for the first time in a long time to another episode of Pokepaint, the series where I draw new Fakemon to inhabit my fan-made Pokemon region based on Florida. It's been a long time, 7 months to be exact, since the last episode of Pokepaint, and even longer since the last wholly original Pokemon design I did in this series, which was Christmas of last year. I'll talk a little bit about exactly why I've been on hiatus for most of 2025 at the end of this video, as there will no doubt be a portion of you all that would be interested in hearing about it. But I know why most of you are here, and who am I to make you wait any longer for some new Pokemon designs? Today we will be wrapping up the gym leader designs for the region with the 8th and final gym and their electric type Pokemon. Starting off with the Ace Pokemon, I wanted an Ace that reflected the profession of this gym leader, as each leader had a profession and a partner Pokemon that reflected that profession so far. Tauros representing the farming profession, Ferristorite space science, Kaboomadillo for basketball, seeing as it had the ability to roll up into a ball, Clemadam for fashion, Dorsaber reflecting the weapons of the Navy, Crobufo represents invasive species for an environmental conservationalist, and Gestelf is an entertainer for the Pokemon World's equivalent of Disney World. And so for the electric type gym, whose concept was based on race car driving, I wanted to give the Ace an electric car type Pokemon. At first, I thought of designing my own electric vehicle Pokemon, but it became obvious that I should make a regional variant of Varoom and Revavroom based on electric vehicles. Starting with Gladeos and Varoom, this was in theory a relatively simple design, but as I went, I realized that it wouldn't be so simple. My strategy was to start off with the original design as a base, trace over it to get the right shapes, and add more race car / electric vehicle modifications until it looked right. But very quickly I learned that Varoom must have not been drawn with its 3D form in mind. Although this is not uncommon with Pokemon designs, it does get more and more rare as the generations go on, as the newer ones were made with their 3D forms in mind. Usually I actually find that they must trace over the 3D model to get the shapes to match, but very occasionally they don't do that, likely because the model hasn't been made yet before they need to make the official art. Either way, I sketched over the original to get the right pose and angle, and then went to work on making a little more sense out of the actual 3D form. I made the almost skull-shaped hood ornament into a thunderbolt symbol, added a more prominent car shell, and slapped a big old 9-volt battery in there to sell the battery-powered idea of it. The unintentional but great side effect of the battery was that it made this version of Varoom look a little bit like a remote control car, which is an implication that I really like, evolutionarily going from a remote control car to a real race car. A fitting pipeline, if you ask me. Gladeosian Varoom, the battery Pokemon. They race each other around using the bulky battery packs on their backs. When the energy in their battery runs low, they become slow and lethargic, and must rest to recharge. When they sense a strong electrical charge, they will seek it out and absorb it. It is said that this Pokemon was born when an unknown electric-type Pokemon entered an experimental electric car battery in a factory somewhere in Gladeos. Now, moving on to the true Ace Pokemon in Gladeos and Revavroom, all I really had left was to take the design aspects that I chose to add to the first form and translate them into this version of the Pokemon, while leaning further into the race car aspect of it. It seemed like a no-brainer to add a spoiler on the back, but I also continued the battery-powered idea, making the battery look more like an integrated part of the design rather than something that you plug in, maybe being a rechargeable battery this time. I inferred that by both making it look like it was bolted down to the design, and more importantly adding a set of bar lights on top that would maybe read the power level, with the concept being that if all 4 lights would be lit up, the battery would be full. I also expanded on the tailpipe type things found in the original design, making them longer and more prominent here. I actually don't know if electric vehicles would even really need tailpipes. I actually know very little about cars, so you'll have to tell me in the comments whether or not I'm right. In all reality, there's a friend of mine that I've known since middle school that's a mechanic, so I could have just asked him. But I don't care that much, to be completely honest. I think they look pretty cool, and rule of cool applies here. Gladeosian Revavroom would have a signature move known as Home Straight Crash. Home straight coming from slang for the final lap of a race. It would be a 55 base power electric type move that would increase in power with the user's speed stat. This would pair with its ability Speed Boost, which would increase the power of this move every turn. Gladeosian Revavroom, the speedster Pokemon and the evolved form of Gladeosian Varoom. In Gladeos, they are most often kept by trainers who compete in Pokemon races, a popular sport in the region. There is an annual competition on the racetrack at Boundash Town where spectators come from around the world to witness. Their power source sits on their back and collects static electricity from the environment. When they are fully charged, the lights on this power pack will be fully lit. The longer they stay in battle, the faster they get, increasing their already considerable speed. So now that we've got the electric ace Pokemon for our final gym, it's about time to move on to designing the final gym leader. So I actually started designing this character all the way back in June, but didn't finish it until only a couple of days ago. It wasn't that this was a particularly hard or intricate design or anything, it just took me a while to come back to. I had this image in my brain of a small race car driving lady with a really big ponytail that would be shaped like a lightning bolt. Not too dissimilar, honestly, from what I came up with for my Trapor region electric type gym leader. I gave her a set of protective baggy overwear that she would presumably don before each race. This would help further fill out the shorter physique that I was going for without making her look like a twig. It was really important to me that this gym leader's stature read differently than Luna, the second gym leader, as I drew her as also a very short character. I used blues and yellows and grays, of course, for the electric type idea, but also to sell the earhead aesthetic that I was going for this character. This was further exaggerated by the clunky boots that I gave her. The name took me a little longer to come up with, but I'm pretty proud of what I found. Going off of the usually very punny Pokemon gym leader names, I settled on K-Bell, which I was surprised to learn is a real, if not slightly rare name that in this context referred to electrical cables. You know, it's pretty nice to have the last gym leader design done, so that finally, after 2 years and some change, I finally have the whole set to look at side by side. Now, of course, since we now have the final gym leader design and the ace design done, it's time for one last session to explore the journey between Retro City and Boundash Town and the gym battle that will follow. After the gym battle in Musketeer World, the journey to the final gym would take us through the familiar parts of Retro City and Route 3, before coming onto the rainy pine forests of Route 10 that wind up to the tunnels that lead through Mount Boundash and to the town beyond. Here, there would be a few side quests before you meet the gym leader. There might be a rival battle, and then you would have to maybe find the gym leader K-Bell in the racetrack before you could battle her. This would serve to introduce a side game similar to the Pogathlon from Heart Gold and Soul Silver in the racetrack. The gym puzzle would see you take on a quiz with each question asked by a trainer that you would battle, with the questions being themed around speed, including questions like which Pokemon is faster, and questions about the mechanics of certain speed-related moves and abilities and items. Answering right would open gates until you reach K-Bell. You finally reach K-Bell and the battle begins. She starts by sending out her lead, Varoom. The first of 5 Pokemon, her level 51 Varoom, would have the ability Volt Absorb and the moves Charge and Discharge for stab, Sand Attack to lower your accuracy, and Gear Grind for Steel type coverage. At first, you might feel like this relatively lackluster opening Pokemon might signify an easy battle, but that might have been done on purpose to lull you into a false sense of security. Her second and third Pokemon are identical, both being Enivolts at level 51. With their signature ability Power Mode, they might be blindingly fast to begin with to let off her setup moves, but once they drop below half health and their defense stats are switched with their speed stats, you might find yourself up against two surprisingly small defensive walls. The first Anavolt has Sunny Day to set up the bright sun weather effect, along with Synthesis to heal, Discharge for stab, and Volt Switch to switch out to the second Anavolt, who replaces Sunny Day with Leaf Blade for grass coverage and stab. Beyond the Anavolt switching pair, you would then come against her penultimate Pokemon, a level 53 Electivire, with the ability Motor Drive to increase its speed if it's hit with any electric type attacks. It has a moveset of Volt Switch, occasionally playing into the Anavolt pair if a little extra power is needed in that phase of the battle. Also Thunder for stab, Ice Punch for coverage against any pesky ground Pokemon that you might have brought, and Double Edge for if a little extra damage is needed. Finally, her ace Pokemon, a level 55 Revavroom, has the ability Speed Boost. It would be holding a Focus Sash, ensuring that it would stay in for at least 2 turns to take advantage of its signature move, Home Straight Crash, which will only increase in devastating power the longer you let this Pokemon stay in battle. It also has the move Synthesis, which, if Sunny Day is still active, might be the end of your hopes of quickly bringing down this Pokemon before it comes too powerful, along with Automize to further boost its speed and Blazing Torque, both in reference to its Paldean form, but also to be a powerful Fire-type move, diversifying the type coverage and giving a chance to burn you. Her Challenge Mode team would be all the same with some added team-wide level boosts. Electivire would gain the Magnet item to boost its already powerful Electric-type moves, and Revavroom would replace Blazing Torque with the even more powerful Blast Burn. K-Bell, in theory, should pose a huge challenge for the player, and a battle that uses speed to her advantage, and gives her better and better odds the longer the battle goes on. But you'll have to tell me if this loadout would be a challenge for you all in the comments below. Team and moveset building is not my strong suit, but I think I still did a pretty good job. But if you should beat K-Bell and her speedy Pokemon, you would earn yourself the 8th and final badge, the Flash Badge. With 8 gyms down, you now set your eyes on the next challenge, the Pokemon League. So that's all the Pokepaint I have for you today. So if that's all you're here for, then I'll see you next time. But as promised, the next section of the video is going to be some unscripted life updates, both explaining my absence and talking about what to expect moving forward. Not to say that I feel the need to explain myself, however, I feel like being transparent, and I feel like you'd all appreciate that, especially for my devoted patrons. So if a little dive into the personal life of the John Machine would interest you, then here you go. Hey guys, I want to preface this part of the video with 2 things. 1, I'm like super sick right now, so I sound like garbage. And 2, this is not scripted, so it's probably going to sound very disorganized. Even though I have notes, hopefully I can save this in editing. I want to start this section by clarifying that I am not burnt out. I know a lot of people who do YouTube get a couple years in and then end up going on hiatus, sort of like I did, because either their passion has run its course or they've run out of things to do. I am definitely not in that boat. Basically, the entire time I was away, I was thinking about YouTube at least once a day. So it's definitely not a chapter of my life that I'm ready to close just yet. That being said, there was a few pretty big things this year that got in the way of me uploading videos, and I'll just sort of go through the list. The first part of this year, I was really throwing myself into my real job in order to save up for a house, which, if you're living pretty much in any part of the world, but especially in the United States, where I'm from, the housing market is absolute garbage here. So that feasibly takes up most of my time. That being said, that's not the only reason. I ended up taking longer and longer between videos and updates for 2 main reasons. 1, after a little while, I felt like I wasn't pursuing my passions. I was doing what a lot of people on YouTube do, trying to optimize for what gets a lot of views. And that was never really why I made a YouTube channel in the first place. Yes, getting paid for it, which I'm paid a little bit for it, is good and all. However, the main reason that I started this channel was to share my passions with the world. And if I can get a little bit of money for it, that's okay. But that was never the focus. and it slowly became the focus over time. And I want to try and get away from that. At the same time that I was sort of getting overwhelmed with the whole algorithm changes and trying to upload things that I thought the algorithm would enjoy, last June I got out of a very long-term relationship. It's not the worst thing in the world. This relationship sort of needed to end, and I'm on good terms with this person. However, ending any relationship, especially one that's been going on for 5 years, is not really a super easy thing to do, even if it should be done. So that took a little bit of the wind out of my sails to start uploading again. Those are all the bad things though, and it's not all bad. Me and 2 of my friends have gotten really into our physical fitness. There was a point in 2023 where I was the heaviest I've ever been, and given there's nothing overtly wrong with that, I was an athlete in high school. I swam competitively, so I had always been a more in shape person, and being out of shape for the first time in my life really put a mentally made my life kind of hard. So in 2024, I started going to the gym and cleaning up my diet, and since then I've lost 67 pounds. I started at 283 and I'm down to 216 as of this morning, actually. My original goal was 225 because that's the weight that I was in high school, and I blew past that, and my new goal is 200. So that's a whole bunch of very disorganized ways of saying I've been focusing on other things. And it's not necessarily that I want to focus on other things, they're just important and they've been prioritized over YouTube. That being said, I'm going to try and reprioritize YouTube in a balanced way. I want to ease back into it. I'm going to shoot for a goal of 1 episode of PokePaint per month. It's kind of the most straightforward project that I'm working on. It has the most solid pipeline, if that makes sense. It's not necessarily that it's easier, I know what each episode's going to look like. And I'm going to start doing some of the miscellaneous, just speed art things that I used to do. That I used to do way back when I started. It's not that they're easier, they're just a lot quicker to make. For the other projects that are either a little more expensive or a little more, or just for the ones that I don't have a very clear idea of where I'm going forward with as of the moment, they're going to come back, they'll just come back later. For the Lightsabers series, even though that's a very new series and there's only like 3 videos in it, I will come back to that. There's sort of 2 reasons. One is, it's sort of expensive to make those. I've been even playing around with the idea of teaching myself to 3D model and getting a 3D printer, either to print entire lightsabers or just to print parts of them. But I don't know. And also, this camera that I'm currently filming this on is a really bad camera. It was great when I got it, but I got it like 10 years ago for Christmas. So its life has run its course. You can't tell right now, but it's completely held together with yellow duct tape. It doesn't fit onto the stand right. It's a huge pain in the butt to use. I have to charge it every like 20 minutes. And the memory on it is shot. Given I could just get another memory card, but I need a new camera anyways. The quality on this one's pretty bad. And for History of the Future, I haven't stopped world building in that series, but I have stopped uploading in that series. Compared to what I have put out, that's probably 5 to 10% of what I've written in the lore so far, so there's certainly a lot more to be explored in that universe. However, that's sort of been the project that's overwhelming me the most. Paradoxically, because I have the most freedom with it, I can do sort of whatever I want. I'm sort of struggling with the balance between making it more scientifically accurate or more, sort of a classic sci-fi story. I'm mostly struggling with how some of the things that I've already established, I have sort of changed my mind on. And it's sort of been hard for me to continue that series, either rebooting some of it, which I know a lot of people won't like, but will make me more satisfied, or continuing with the series that I'm doing, which would make me less satisfied, but hopefully would be what everybody would want. So I'm going to try and strike a happy medium with that. selfishly geared towards maybe dropping some of the aspects of it that I don't like. I like the idea of making it a little more hard science, and differentiating it from a lot of the already established sci-fi series out there. A lot of things that inspired it, but that I maybe don't want it to emulate super closely. It just kind of depends on how much time I have to write it and how much I decide to change it from its current incarnation. So yeah. So those two series they're going to be coming back, but I have to invest a lot of time and thought into them to figure out exactly how I'm going to do them in the future. Anyways, that's really about it. A whole lot of things going on in the personal life of the John Machine. But yeah, that's all. I really want to thank you guys for sticking with me, or at least those of you who did, throughout this hiatus, especially for my patrons, who a good chunk of which are still financially supporting me, even though they've gotten very few updates on where I've been. They've gotten a little more updates than most people, as is the nature of my Patreon page. But still, they've gotten very little. So thank you guys very much for your support. But that'll do it for now. I hope to focus on another Pokepaint episode next, or maybe even one of those miscellaneous design videos. Just really whatever I end up wanting to do, I think. I'm gonna try to ease back into this with less expectations, because I think that was a big chunk of the reason why I was feeling so overwhelmed before. But yeah, that'll do it for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video and want to see more like it, then you can totally subscribe if you haven't already. And thank you for those of you who stuck around listening to my very unorganized rant. I don't know what this is going to edit down to, but it's way too long to be at the end of a video right now. So I'll see you guys when I upload next.